Hey Sag, what is going on? What I'm seeing be happening in the energy is you having a moment where you can feel like something has a tight grip on you. I'm seeing you be in a situation that can feel like you care about it a lot. You're very involved in it, but that also means too that there can be fears that are coming up and there can be stuff with the shadow that's coming up, but I see it more in a sense of coming through as like a desire to kind of like control something, what's really going on here. And it feels like your faith may be tested as it involves this thing that you have going on. Maybe right now you're feeling kind of perplexed, you can be feeling confused, you can be looking for clarity. I'm seeing that that definitely is going to come. I think in the meantime, like, you have something going on that you care about, right? The part of you that cares and can take things a bit too far sometimes can be coming up, but in ways that it can be hard to decipher, hard to see. And it can just kind of like confuse things, meaning maybe you have a situation going on that you really like what's happening within it. But it also can feel triggering simultaneously. And the part of you that maybe like, I want it to go like this, I want it to go like that, it can be coming up. And like, as soon as things don't go as you expect them to, there can be something that goes on that has you maybe wanting to like fly away a little bit. Here was the feeling that I was getting. And I think this is all just a lesson in you having to learn how to trust the process and how to not like abandon something even when you're like, how is it all going to come together? I get like that sense of things when it comes to this. We're starting off with 7 of Cups. We want clarity. Generally, when we have the 7 of Cups, you see this person's face, how it's kind of like, what's going on here? That can be your feeling right now. With Temperance on the bottom of the deck, you are going to be finding out what's going on here, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And I think allowing for things to unfold, but when you don't know what's going on and you want to know, I think you can start feeling kind of shut down because of that. And having 9 of Wands on the bottom of the deck, this can be your sort of like karmic test moving through this process. When you don't know what's going on, you don't know exactly how things are going to be, how things are going to shake out, to let go and to go with the flow rather than shutting down or becoming really rigid within the energy. This means too, like, how do you mitigate the overthinking? How do you work with yourself? How do you work with your mind when you're in a situation that lacks clarity? How do you be okay with that when you may feel very uncomfortable with it? Like, maybe you're looking for more details here. And this is actually like, how about we figure out a way to be in this situation and deal with being in this situation rather than having to change it or make it different just so you can feel comfortable? How can we actually move in a way that's easier while still accepting the situation as it is? So instead of like, the only way I'm going to feel better is if something changes, how do we feel better while accepting things as they are? And not just like lose yourself, because I get this, what is it? You know, in the water where there's like a whirlpool, but I'm seeing this be happening within you where it's like you just go down and you feel like you're sinking to the bottom of the ocean here within yourself, within your mind, within your feelings, and then like kind of closing off or shutting down because of that. How do we sort of like stabilize things here? Because I see a shrinking that's happening. I see contracting that's happening. How do you be open through this process and not shut down? Maybe you're also in a spot where you're gaining more awareness that this is a tendency of yours when you're in a situation like this. Getting confirmation of this. I feel like the situation is providing a pretty clear mirror for you, seeing like what's going on when things aren't, you know, the line of the axis point of Gemini and Sagittarius. We like communication, we like information, we want to know what's going on, we want to be talking about it, we want to be discussing. When that's not all totally there, and you have to be okay with this place of ambiguity, knowing that things are, you're not going to remain in this forever. You're not going to remain in this position forever. Things are going to be clarified. But what about when they're not clarified yet? And it's a neutral situation and you're seeing all of the different things that you're projecting onto it. You can get a clearer insight into your mind and what's going on, and it can show you like where you shut down, where you start overthinking, where you lose yourself, where you become dysregulated and unstable as well, where you lose your confidence even. And not because it's a situation worth losing your confidence in, but you're shown something neutral, and if the reflection you're getting back is something that has you not feeling good within yourself, what's that then? What's that mean? And why is that what we're seeing? Why is that what we're projecting onto this situation? That doesn't mean you don't have your own preferences, but what about when we can't have it the way that we prefer and we need to adjust to what's actually going on? Which is something that you're very much capable of as a mutable sign. It means that you know how to switch gears. I see a lot of big emotional stuff that's going on to the point where you can feel a little bit sick because of it. Okay, I'm seeing lovers on the bottom of the deck, so let's put the focus on a relationship that you have here. Seven of Cups, Page of Cups is like, what's going on? I'm feeling all of these different things. Now I'm trying to like gain some sense of control here, and then it's just putting things more into a gridlock, and you can feel kind of indisposed a bit, is the sense that I get from this. Then there's stuff from your past that's coming up. Then you're like thinking so much. You're getting lost kind of in the forest of your mind here. I just get it like not being a good time, but the way that I'm seeing this is that things are actually okay within the situation that you're in, but because of you not, because of you struggling to adapt to it and feeling like it's coming back to this thing of, I'm only going to be okay if these particular things change or happen right now in this way. That's not what you're going to get. It's forcing you to have to adjust to what's going on. But that part of you that's resisting that is what is creating all of the chaos, because I'm not seeing a situation that looks chaotic. I'm seeing there be inner turmoil because you're having a hard time adjusting to what's going on. And then that's where things start becoming frustrating, painful, difficult. You feel lost in this. That's when all of those things start coming up. But I'm not seeing there actually be problems within the situation. It's just you projecting your own inner conflict onto what's going on, and that's where all of this is coming from. And that's why it can feel confusing, and that's why you can be like, I need to do something about it. And I get this again, it's like this feeling that you have to do something about this situation. If you're misconstruing the message and feeling like that means you need to change something externally, that's where you're going to get caught up and get off track. Because the thing that needs to change is an internal thing. That's what it's the only thing that you have power of and control over in this situation. You keep trying to micromanage things externally within this, and you're going to feel more and more frustrated, more and more rigid at the end of the day within this. It's going to feel more and more stagnant as well, and you're going to disconnect more from it and feel like something has gone terribly wrong when this is all just projection onto the situation. I think for some of you too, this can come from a place of like, I had expectations. This isn't exactly what I expected, and now I'm feeling triggered, but instead of experiencing it as feeling a type of way, I start feeling confused about stuff, and I start having all of these different emotions. I don't really know what they mean. I'm trying to decode it, and then it feels like holding on to every last bit of everything rather than letting things kind of flow fluidly. So it's like grabbing hold of this, grabbing hold of that, like making everything that you're feeling concrete, overthinking it, and then feeling like you're dying a million times through this process, when I don't think it really has to be like that. Even though like dying we can see metaphorically as like, maybe you keep having to shed skin, maybe you keep having to learn this lesson again and again, to allow yourself to be in a more like emotionally transient space without having to make solid every little thought and feeling that you're having, to kind of like watch it flutter around like a butterfly without having to capture it and crystallize it, which I think is where some of the difficulty can come through. That doesn't mean this isn't a challenging situation, but what it means is that it's encouraging you to adjust within yourself rather than try to further micromanage this situation and control it. Because what's going to happen is you try to do that and it's going to end badly. And you can be maybe seeing that happen continuously. Maybe every time you try to get a hand on something a little bit more than you should be here within this, knowing even that you know better, things end badly. And that doesn't mean the whole situation does, but it can mean like a cycle of you trying to do that. It doesn't work. And then you're like, now what's going on? It just feels like that kind of repeatedly that's been happening, but it doesn't need to keep happening. But this is a lesson in you having to be flexible and you having to be adjustable to what's going on to help you better cope, I think, with the process of what's unfolding here. Because it really has you start second guessing yourself, and then you get out of touch. It's like all of the oil that allows the gears and the mechanisms and everything to work and flow, it gets like dried up, and we need to inject that back into this so you can move fluidly through this without it being so clunky energetically. I think too that you can be like projecting a lot of expectations onto this situation where you need to be fluid. You need to trust that you know you're going in the right direction, and that sometimes we can't really form realistic expectations yet. There's something here about needing to ground that, because I get this thing of like, I have an expectation, whether it matches the situation or not, or whether I know that it's really realistic for this or not, I'm setting the standard there. Then feeling a type of way because of how things are playing out, and then suffering and then struggling, and your higher self being like, you know, if you would stop setting the bar there, this wouldn't have to keep happening. But the lesson is to stop doing that. But I just get this thing of like trying to like force it to be your way when this is unfolding. Like things are unfolding, and I wouldn't even say that this is like a bad situation or anything like that. It's just like you making it not a good experience moving through it because of how you're approaching it. And it's approaching it in like this rigid, I think even like a demanding way of how the energy works and how things happen. And it's like, this is not even a solo project. You have another person here that's participating in it. So that means that you can't just be the like commanding officer in this situation, because you're co-creating here, but you're not entering into it like you're co-creating. And so what all of this comes back to is seeing like where the buildup of all of these feelings are coming from, And the takeaway from all of this is the change that needs to happen is not you changing things externally, it's making the change internally. And that's what this whole thing is about. And you can ignore that and still keep doing this, and it's going to continue feeling like a struggle, or you can shift the way that you're approaching this, and it can be a much more enjoyable experience for you, and you get to choose how you want it to be moving through this. But you don't need to feel this constant tension, conflict, disappointment, pain, all of that. It doesn't have to, overthinking doesn't have to be part of the process. But you are going to have to loosen up here if you want that to happen. Because I even get it, like, I don't even think this situation is confusing, but you're confusing yourself by being like, we need to get to the 3rd mile marker by tomorrow. You don't get there. And then you're like, something's gone terribly wrong, when it's like, no, you just set it there. It was like an arbitrary way of setting the standard, and everything's actually on track. But in your head, you said it was supposed to get there. So now you think something's wrong when really nothing's wrong. It's going to be one of these. And it feels like this has been happening repeatedly. And then you're basing it off of this like principal expectation that you had. You're getting like feedback from that of like, why didn't we reach that? Now it feels like something's going wrong. Like, we must really be off track. Was this even a good idea in the first place? Why isn't this going successfully? When it's like, is it not going successfully? Are things not okay? When it looks to me like everything actually is okay. But this is like you with you, and how you're handling this, and how you're setting things up, and how you're maneuvering through this and approaching the situation. The like funny thing about this is that it's like you confusing yourself within this, when it like everything's actually not confusing. If you were to take this part of doing things out of it, it would actually be like pretty straightforward. But you're gonna have to stop setting these standards. And I just feel like it's to gain like a sense of control, or be able to track things, or find out what's going on, or like pull more information from this, when it's like everything's unfolding the way that it's supposed to within this. But I just get you getting yourself like kind of worked up here within this. It's like feeling a little Scorpio to me with the way of doing this, like trying to maneuver and be like, if I move this piece here and say that we should be there by tomorrow, then this is going to happen. Also, you can feel like you have this like sense of control within this. Maybe even because you don't trust yourself. Maybe you're like, I don't trust this enough to go off my intuition and know that this is an aligned situation for me to be in, so I have to like find some way to gauge it. But it just feels like a really ineffective way to gauge it, because it's like it's making it so much more challenging for you, when that does not need to be part of the process. So all of this coming back to the reason why you feel confused, the reason why you feel all over the place, the reason why you don't know what's going on, the reason why you feel emotionally this like tension and friction, it's just because of this. So it's like, it's literally your doing here, and this does not need to be part of the process for you, but you are going to have to loosen your grip on this. And that's what the message is. You're going to have to stop putting these like standards and these expectations on things. And it's not even the way that you're putting standards and expectations on it. It doesn't feel reasonable for the situation. Now, if these were reasonable, it would be a different story, but this doesn't feel reasonable. And if you really check in, you're doing this from a place of fear and wanting to control. That's what's motivating you. So that's the kind of outcome that you're going to get. And that's why you feel this way, because that's what's motivating it. If you were doing it from another place, you would get different outcomes. But when you're motivated to set standards from a place of fear and anxiety, that's the kind of feedback that you're going to get with this. It's just going to reinforce more of that for you. And it's not going to feel good. And I think when you get to the point of, I think like you really have to trust yourself and know that you are going to know what you need to know in every given moment. And you don't need to plot out the next 20 years of everything. Within the dynamic. This is about you trusting yourself, because I think that this is also kind of like a bit of a trauma response. Like maybe you've been in situations and been like, I feel now like I need to pay so close attention so I don't get hurt, or so this doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. Still, this is all coming from fear and anxiety, because which stems from you not trusting that if like something is off track, you feel like you're not going to know, and that's why you keep having to gauge things like this. So it comes from a disconnection with self and your intuition ultimately. So this is about needing to come back to a place of strengthening that and trusting rather than undermining that part of yourself. And that's going to strengthen you emotionally and intuitively through this, and it's going to make it easier, because I just see a lot of unnecessary turmoil that is at your own hands here, that is becoming part of your experience where it doesn't need to be. But yeah, I think that this comes from a place of you wanting to protect yourself, and then it doing like, I think really the opposite of what you want it to do. And it's because of the intention behind it. It's because of the motivation. So it's something to just look into more deeply and see that that's where this is coming from, and that things actually seem like they're fine. And you can maybe spend some time like investigating your feelings that you're having about this in a way where there's a curiosity rather than being like, this doesn't make sense, and spiraling immediately because of that, which is going to allow this overthinking to really come to an end. I'm also seeing stuff about like restraint and holding back on the emotional front too, or like closing down, shutting down emotionally, and then like not really moving from your heart anymore. Your deeper insight, wisdom, and knowing is going to help you, but you have to stay connected with that part of you, because when you're connected with the part of you that's the high priestess, you are not panicking. That part of you, it doesn't panic. It doesn't feel like everything's going wrong. It's the part of you that trusts what's happening, and that you're centered, and that you're calm, and that you're grounded, and that you're moving through things. This is the part of you that's watching things and you see it unfold. But when you're heightened, you're not going to be seeing things clearly. So it can be about getting in touch with things. I feel too like you're in a situation that's different than what your previous experiences have been. I did a reading for Virgo today. Well, actually, it was a collective reading, but it was Virgo and the moon that came out in that reading. And this is kind of reminding me of that, even though that reading will have come out on the 27th. This one will not come out until 4 days after. But yeah, something that was coming through in that reading was about the past creeping up into the present moment, and then like projecting that, even though everything was good in the present moment, but kind of the like unintegrated stuff from the past coming through, and then thinking something's going on that's not really going on. It's just having this basically like flashback, but you think it's kind of happening present moment. And then you're like, am I getting intuitive feelings about this? And it's not. It's just baggage from the past that's returning. I think as well, this has been like pretty stressful emotionally for you. Just feels like a lot of heavy weight on the emotional front that you've been carrying. But it seems too like this way of seeing things is going to come to an end. And it can, but it's going to take you coming out of this mindset. Like you have to elevate and be open to this. Because I get this is a situation that it can kind of feel uncomfortable, and it can feel like you don't always know how to approach it, and you are in the process of figuring that out. You need to recognize when you're becoming ungrounded and when you're actually like creating difficulty and problems for yourself moving through, because that's going to help you more easily maneuver through this. And it's going to help you feel like you're discerning, and you can see where your fear is getting the best of you and like getting a tight grip on you. And being able to discern that and recognize that is going to be the thing that helps you cut through and liberates you from that, so you can show up presently. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.